Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sports On I40 Podcast. We are here today to go over a couple of games that we went to go see. The first one being Sholo versus Holbrook, and the other one being Monument Valley versus Holbrook. We happened to go out to both of those games. They were both away games for Holbrook, and we saw quite an interesting show. What do you think, Mac?
Yeah, we did two games back to back on the road. Um, Kind of rough one for the girls, and it was some good games though. Um, Pretty good games for the boys. They came out on top of both, and they executed what they needed to, and it's good games for them.
Yeah, it was an interesting weekend because there were some losses, right? I know on the boys' side, Altus A did beat Winslow. So that certainly put the 3A East boys championship sort of in a bind. So I guess it still is, in a sense, anybody's game at the moment. As far as the girls, though, I think Holbrook fans were pretty hopeful that this win streak that they were on was going to carry over into Sholo, as well as the Monument Valley. But that didn't exactly work out as intended. So we're going to go over some of that. And hopefully, for those who weren't able to attend, this podcast will give you a better insight on what happened and maybe look towards the future. So the first game back we want to talk about is the Sholo girls game. Now, I had the opportunity to speak with Coach Perkins on Saturday in Monument Valley before the Monument Valley girls game, and he had some interesting things to say. One of the things he had mentioned to me was that they were anticipating Sholo girls to be in a man defense, so they prepared all week for that. However, if you were there, notice early on, Sholo at some point quickly changed to a zone defense, which certainly put the Holbrook girls offense into a kerfuffle. Holbrook girls tried to rely on their shooting, but the shooting wasn't really happening for them as well. And, both teams really struggle shooting. I noticed Sholo, though they shot a lot of 3-pointers, they hardly made any of them. Holbrook, just as bad. Believe they shot 24 3-pointers and only made 4. Fact check me on the 24, but it was pretty high. But to shoot that poorly from the 3-point line certainly doesn't help your cause. What do you think, Mac?
Yeah, they don't. They had last two games. They also had they were out without Jordan the last couple games, and she's one of their best 3-point shooters too. Without her on the line, shooting behind the arc too, that also had an effect on it, and that was seen.
You're talking about Jordan from Holbrook, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so not having your full team was certainly a problem for Holbrook. But again, they had that great victory earlier last week, and then they move on to Sholo. And again, everything just did not seem to be going their way, and they really struggled from the get-go. One of the things I noticed too, in particular, is that Sholo, the girls over there, are really tall compared to Holbrook. So if you look at the girls from Holbrook, it looks like they have a team with full of guards, which doesn't really pan out that well when you're playing against a team that is a lot taller. And I have stressed in the past in the other two podcasts that there is a premium on height, and especially when you have teams that have the height but also the skill, it really does make a difference. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it does. Especially in a girls type game when, like compared to a boys game, speed and all that, agility and all that's not really, I guess, sort of compensated for a girl and all that. And so the height really makes a difference for them.
Yeah, one of the highlights though is Sholo really starting to take command of the 3A East. In the last podcast, we did mention that at first we thought that Holbrook could still be in the mix, and they still could be. They're gonna have to hope that they split the series with Sholo and also win the series against Snowflake. Because with this loss to Sholo, it really sort of puts the tiebreaker in jeopardy. So in this case, since I believe Sholo beat Snowflake.
Yeah, they did.
So that sort of put the East sort of more in Sholo's hands. And as this season is progressing, though I thought, again, early in the season that it could have went Holbrook's way. It's really starting to go towards what the most likely outcome is, and that is possibly Sholo taking the East. Um, Snowflake is going to be a challenge as well. We got to see them play a few weeks ago against Holbrook, and Holbrook managed to steal a victory over there. But Sholo is just firing on all cylinders right now, and they're just doing such a great job. One of the highlights I noticed when I was over at the Sholo gym, Raquel Wilson was on the 1,000-point career list, which was really amazing. It's really tough to go out there and score 100, let alone 1,000. So congratulations to her. That was really impressive, and it was just really great to see her play live. She is a really good ball player, and she really makes a huge difference for her team. The other players that I also wanted to note from the Sholo girls team, Reese Perkins, number one, she also had a really good game as well, and she sort of also helped to balance Raquel Wilson's play. Her athleticism and speed was really hard for Holbrook to handle, and I guess if we look at overall, Sholo just has a lot more team speed compared to Holbrook, and that was also another difference maker as well. So sometimes there are certain factors like athleticism that just purely can overwhelm a team, and for Holbrook, it just seemed like all the right things had to happen for them to win, and if one of those things don't show up or happen, that it's just going to be a really tough game to win.
Yeah.
Additionally, Jordan Boyce, number 3, she also had a great game too. And it's those 3 I thought were just really impressive. They're a really impressive unit, and they have a really aggressive play, which I think bodes well, especially against Northern teams. I noticed that in girls basketball, when you have really aggressive play, it really does help. It really does help your offense get against the other team. Because maybe, I don't know if there's really, I guess in my mind, I want to say an intimidation factor to it. But when you come out and you can throw a team off their game simply by just, wanting to, having the desire to win more and willing to go out to do the extra things, it really shows up in the end result. Do you have anything else to add to that, Mac?
Yeah, like you mentioned, team coming from the East and all that. The game they played was fast paced, and seemed like Holbrook couldn't keep up with them. And that's the type of game that will be played most times from a Northern team. And to have someone like Chin Lee or one of them other teams from the Tuba City, that's their type game. And they kind of have a similar game with just another big man that can really control the ball and play the court well with Raquel Wilson there.
Yeah, again, and maybe we can bring up some here. Let me just give me one moment here. So, if I can see this correctly, we do have some video here of the game here, and Shannon Harrington just had a really tough time trying to make these 3-pointers. It was certainly tough for them to do so. Just really a tough night for them on the offensive side. There was some offensive plays that I thought was so right here. You see that? That was just a constant thing for Sholo, where Raquel Wilson, who was put down low, she would, I guess you could say, put herself down at the lower end of the key, and then the Sholo offensive player would just, toss it over, and she would just get that for the easy 2. And if you look at the stats or kind of the scoring pattern, Sholo just made a lot of 2-pointers. Basically, their whole entire night was just 2-pointer after 2-pointer. And if you look at that last clip that we saw there of Raquel Wilson just getting the ball and then just having that easy 2-pointer there, that was sort of what it was all night. It was just easy two after easy two. Did you see anything else beyond that, Mac?
Um, yeah, they used the inside post game quite well, and when they did, when they collapsed the bottom players, they would kick it back out and hit threes too. I don't know what their scoring percentage was for threes, but they had a few. And that quick run game, that transition game was Cholos too with the speed, the athleticism they have. They would just run down the court, get a rebound, and it was just look down and look for one of the girls down there, and that was their game. And I think Holbrook with their 3-pointers, I think they only had like one per quarter almost, right? Something like that.
That is correct. About one quarter, if I look through my notes here correctly. Like again, I think for Holbrook, a lot of 3-pointers is clearly a way for them to try to take advantage of those. And in this case, they just were not able to capitalize on those. The other item I noticed in this game too is Sholo's real aggressive play did put Sholo in foul trouble early.
Yeah.
So I know that Raquel Wilson, I believe she got 2 quick fouls maybe early in the first half, where she did have to go sit on the bench because of her early foul trouble. But even with Raquel Wilson having to go and watch for a little bit, Sholo just kept on going, and they really didn't have any problems. So again, Sholo, they have a great team this year. The coach over there has done a really great job these past 3 seasons. I'm really impressed with what is going on over there, and hopefully we continue to see great basketball coming out of the Sholo girls program. The second game that we saw was Sholo boys versus Holbrook boys, and in that game, Holbrook. I mentioned in the last podcast, great teams win the games they're supposed to win, and this was certainly one of those games where Holbrook was supposed to win, and they certainly came out and did so in a convincing fashion.
Mm-hmm.
They made many 3-pointers that game. The whole team just seemed to be excited and ready to play. It was almost like they had left off from the last game. So it was really neat to see. Do you have anything to add to that, Mac?
Yeah, the boys played well. They had threes. If I remember right, in the first quarter, Holbrook made 7 threes in the first quarter. I think they had like 24 points or something, 26 points, I believe, in the first quarter.
Yes, they finished the quarter with 27 points.
27.
And you are right, they did shoot 7 threes. They only missed 2.
Wow.
Jaren made 4 and only missed 2. So I remember seeing that early in the game. It was just one 3-pointer after the next, right?
Yep.
And because of that, Holbrook went up in the first quarter, 27-17. Sholo, they really struggled to try to make some points. If I look at my notes here, around about the 6-minute and 30 mark in the first quarter, Sholo finally was able to gather some points. I know they started out real slow, but from about 6:29 to further on in the game, let me see here, it was just a struggle. I mean, back and forth, 6 points, 8 points, 13 points. There was a long stretch there where they were just stuck at 13 points for a while. But again, if you're playing against a team that's just making a lot of 3-pointers, that's also hard to try to do something about that. Because if you start honoring the shot, then it starts opening up the inside game. And we all know that Tyler Taba is I call him the king of old school. He's just really good at those low post moves.
Yeah.
And it's really impressive to see when he puts those post moves on display. Moving into the second quarter, Holbrook did struggle. I only mark Holbrook as shooting 3-pointers in the second quarter, and they only made 3. So, anyhow, yeah, only made 3. And again, they sort of started slow down. I think they started to maybe try to get a little complacent, I think. But either way, the quarter did end 39-29 at halftime. Sholo shot 3-pointers and they only made 2 out of the 3. In the third quarter, it started to kind of get a little bit interesting. I think Sholo came out in the second half, wanting to put up a victory or wanting to at least make the game a little more interesting. The third quarter ended 49-42. So Sholo really did make up a lot of ground in that third quarter. Holbrook only shot 3-pointers and didn't make any of them. Sholo, on the other hand, they shot 6 3-pointers and only made 2. So again, you can see that was a lot of this game was mostly 2-pointers, and I think Holbrook really slowed themselves down in the third quarter, and Sholo was able to capitalize on that.
Yeah.
There's one player from Sholo, their point guard, and I wish I knew his name off the top of my head, but he just has a lot of speed, and I think if everything goes correct for him, he can certainly be a scoring machine. He drove the ball in a bunch of times, and wasn't able to exactly finish. But I was just thinking, man, if he could just finish those, the game would have been certainly a lot different final score if that would have been the case.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter, though, Holbrook really came in. They really, started to put the pedal to the metal. The Holbrook ended up winning 65-47. And you and I had talked before the game, kind of bouncing ideas on who would win by how much, and we were kind of thinking it would be somewhere around here with our pregame discussions with that.
Yeah.
Do you have any final words about this game?
I thought it was cool that some of the boys off the bench came up and played, and it's good to see them all, the whole 5 coming at the end, and just give them a little shout. And Manny Guerrero scored his first bucket as a freshman, so in that game, so that's memorable to me because I know him pretty well. Braylon and Brady had a nice dish to one another, and that was cool to see. Just some of these younger boys that are coming up and the JV game and all that too, like them playing in that and coming up, and it's good to see, like a little bit of action against a team like this, and opportunity, always it's not always there, but they were getting that chance, and I thought it was cool, a cool display, man. It was good.
Yeah, it's always good to see younger classmen come in and get some experience and playing time as well. So if you're just a fan of basketball, I would definitely encourage you to go out and see a Sholo girls game. They are a really good team this year, just like last year and the year before. And they have some standout players, with Raquel Wilson as being one of those standout players. Just a really good unit, very good team, and we're looking forward to seeing how they will do in not only finishing in the East, but also how well they do in the state playoffs. So the next game that we want to talk about is the doubleheader, it wasn't a doubleheader, it was a back-to-back game. Holbrook versus Monument Valley in Monument Valley. So it was quite the adventure for myself, going to the Sholo game, watching both the boys and the girls, and then having to drive back, and then wake up the next day and drive all the way to Monument Valley. So if I was tired, I can imagine the young players on both teams maybe weren't as tired as I was, but I think the travel could have certainly been a factor in that game.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so the highlight of the girls' game here. So we'll start off with that one. Holbrook was coming in. They had the loss to Sholo, and I would suspect that they were looking to try to get a win following this loss. And I personally thought that it was certainly within the realm of possibility for them to do this. Monument Valley, sort of in a rebuilding season in a way. I know that they are in a competitive region up in the north, but compared to the other teams and I guess how they played last year, I guess Um, to me, it seemed like it was certainly possible for Holbrook to steal a win up there in Monument Valley. What are your thoughts on that, Mike?
Yeah,
Mac, I keep calling you Mike. Sorry.
yeah, they had a good chance. They it was a good game. Went back and forth most of the way. Mountain Valley has their star senior, Carrie Mann. She did good in the game. Beginning, I believe she kind of got in foul trouble at the beginning of the first quarter too, I believe. But she played most of the game and she played well. Um, Holbrook girls didn't have their one of their key shooters again too, and it was I don't know how much of a factor that would have been played in the game, but it definitely would have been different. I think.
Yes, and you could see on the screen there that I did take some video. I tried to get some highlights of each of the quarters for those who weren't able to make it there to the game. But I was really impressed by Karen Mann. I remember seeing her play last year in the state playoffs as well. Very good player. Um, has a commanding presence out there on the courts. She came in there ready to play. She scored a bunch of points. It was really cool to see someone play so well like that. Um, I think Holbrook came in like I said, hoping to steal a victory here. But again, it though it was though it was a competitive game. Um, I think a lot of mistakes really held Holbrook back from keeping this game within reach or within possibility of victory, as well as they did make a bunch of threes, but Monte Valley just, I think, possibly being a more mature team, they just knew how to take care of this game, and they just were able to work through it and get the victory. Do you think that was something? Do you think that was a correct assessment, Mac?
I believe so. Yeah. The Holbrook played well too. They they were able to break the press when they had it, and they were able to get the ball down court. Um, but man, it just some of the baskets weren't going in, and just little things, you know. They had a good chance. They had plenty of chances to execute, and just didn't go their way at the end, man.
Fouls were certainly a factor. I believe I wrote down here Karen Mann committed 2 fouls early. I think it was around the 4:40 mark where she was substituted out of the game. Um, I know to the fans' dismay, there was certainly a lot of calls that went in Holbrook's favor. But despite all that, Monument was still able to pull this victory out. Um, Another interesting fact about this game is I believe Monument Valley shot 17 three-pointers and didn't make any of them. So Monument Valley had I would say a poor performance from the three-point arc. Um, I guess that's why it's worth 3 points. It's a lot more challenging to make. Just imagine if they would have made even a third of those. Uh, I think Monument Valley would have won by a higher margin than they did in this game, which Monument Valley won 47-52.
Yeah, Holbrook was the other way around. They made 7 out of 21. They made a third of their shots, I guess, from the 3-point line, and they did pretty well for the threes.
Yeah, so if they made 7, that must mean that the three-pointers really did help them to keep themselves in the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we continue to see a lot of mistakes from Holbrook, a lot of poor passing, a lot of unnecessary turnovers. But I think that's just something that you have to live with, I guess. Um, but it'll be interesting to see how Monument Valley will progress for the remainder of the season. They're in the North, and they do have still a ways to go. I think they only have a few more weeks left before they have the region tournament, because they started early in order to compensate for that North region tournament.
Yeah.
Let me look here really quick. Let me see here. So finishing up the season, Mountain Valley only has 3 games left. Tuba City on January 28th, Page on January 30th, and Winter Rock on February 1st, followed by the region tournament on February 6th. If we look at the standings for the girls basketball, Finley is currently leading the 3A North, with Monument Valley sitting second to last. And we've had the opportunity to see some of these teams out there, and Chinley being a great team, Ganado being a great team, Tuba City being a great team, Page being a great team. It's just a really tough conference to play in, especially if you maybe have more underclassmen on your team or a little less experience. It's just a tough place to play. What are your thoughts on the standings currently in the 3A North?
Yeah, it's interesting. They also have the conference tournament going on, and like we said, in February. And it seems like most previous years, the winning team almost come in second place. But I don't know how much of a factor that is to the standings for the state playoffs. But it is something that happens, and it's happened before. Or the number 1 team would get knocked out by number 4 or something like that. And Mountain Valley is still a pretty good team. They got what it takes to go pretty far in the tournament. But it's just they got some good teams too coming from the same conference.
Yeah, they certainly do, and it'll be again interesting to see where the rest of the season takes them, as well as in the tournament and also the state playoffs as well.
And currently, Mountain Valley girls are ranked number 10 in the Copper. I guess in the 3A.
Oh, just the 3A conference.
Yeah.
Okay, or 3A. Yeah, 3A conference. And I guess we can take a look at that here. So let me do this really quick. And I'll bring this up for us to see. So as you can see here, this is just the 3A girls basketball rankings here. We have Chinley at the very top, ranked number 1 in the open tournament, followed by Snowflake, Push Ridge, Page. So the top 9, if you look at the top 9 here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I guess Payson is in Central now, but they're still sort of in that Eastern region as well. But a good representation in the top 9 in the 3A. Well, this is all 3A, but a good representation from the North and the East in the top rank up there. If we look down, you have Monument Valley at number 10, and Holbrook at 15. So this hasn't been updated yet, I'm assuming, the actual rankings, but I expect them to do so. So this would have been January 24th. So these rankings will change probably tomorrow. As far as the Copper rankings go, we have Chinley still at number 1, followed by Miami, a 2A team. I believe Miami made it to the state championship last year for the 2A girls.
Yeah, I believe so.
And I think I did happen to watch a little bit of that game online. Moving down further into this tournament here, another interesting note here, we have Fort Thomas at number 12, Joseph City at number 15. We have some other teams here, Monument Valley at number, I guess, what is this, 10? No, that's same from their rank, the 3A ranking.
18.
So 16, 17, 18, right? It looks like Holbrook, at least on this rankings, has fallen out of the Copper rankings, which is unfortunate. But let's just kind of talk about that for a moment here, because I was thinking about this. If you think about it, the top teams in the 3A are going to remain in the Open Championship, and everyone else is going to be in the regular 3A state championship.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite possible that, Holbrook could have an interesting run in the playoffs should they be just in the 3A conference tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I believe the way it works is teams that are in the open division, if you lose in the first or the second round of the open tournament, you automatically go back to your 3A conference tournament. So you still get a chance to play for a state championship, even though you lost your first or second game in the open tournament. So I believe after the second round, at that point, you're stuck in the open tournament, and I guess it's single elimination at that point. So I say the 3A tournament is certainly going to change, and we're going to see a lot of these teams up here be in that tournament, which would put the other teams, I guess, in their respective conference tournament to give them a better shot at winning the state championship. Because imagine, you have Chinle. Let's just hypothetically, let's just assume, Chinle, they make it past the second round. Snowflake makes it past the second round. Page makes it past the second round. Tuba City makes it past the second round. Sholo makes it past the second round. All right. So now you just have basically the best 3A girls teams in their own tournament, right?
Yeah.
And everyone else is playing for the 3A state championship tournament.
Yep.
So that certainly changed the dynamic. And I don't know if that, to me, it's a championship's a championship, I guess. And I think it gives other schools an opportunity to, represent their school, I guess maybe more accurately or more fairly in this case. Do you see anything from this data that we've shown here about the upcoming tournaments, potential tournaments? Back?
Yeah, it's anybody's game, especially for these teams, like you said, in Holbrook or someone standing like Monte Valley. They got, if you get some of these good teams out of the bracket, it changes everything for them, and they got a good opportunity to take state. And some I even had the question of like, do we take state for the copper or the 3A state championship, 2A, 1A, whatever it may be. And it's gonna be interesting. This is the first time it happening for some of these smaller schools, so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, as a little side note, I'm not sure which class it was, but they were selling pizza at Monte Valley, and I think I accidentally ate a whole entire pizza by myself.
Football.
Oh, it's football.
Valley football team. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So it's my first time actually going up to that gym there in Monte Valley. One of the questions that I had when I was there was seeing the gym and noticing that, there was pretty good fan attendance, but from those people out there who have attended games in the past, I've been told that that gym used to sell out completely.
Uh-huh.
And I've kind of noticed that that's been sort of a common theme for all of the teams, I guess throughout the North, right? A lot of schools, invested money into building these multi-million-dollar facilities, and I think fan attendance is down. Do you think that this new type of media, like YouTube, for example, being able to broadcast these games online, do you think that it has played a factor
Oh yeah, definitely.
in physical fan attendance?
Sure. And I think back then too, like dedication and the res is the res, No, people didn't really have a whole lot to do in the evenings, the weekends, whatever. So everyone showed out for these games, and I witnessed some games here at MVU a long time ago, back in the late '90s and early 2000s, and that place would be packed out all the way to the top. It'd be standing room only, sell out. Back when Bobby Manheimer and some of these teams would go at it. Brian Holiday, some of these old legends were playing, and now I was asking the question, what was it like back when they had a runner-up championship team back a couple of years ago, back with the Albrana Baijo and some of them young guys, and I'm not sure what the attendance was like, but it'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, you had mentioned that before the podcast when we talked about this, and I was thinking maybe you could go to YouTube and you could maybe see some of the broadcasts that were done for it during that championship run.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like a recent phenomenon. Even I can remember back in the early and mid 2000s, there was still a lot of fan attendance.
Mm-hmm.
Especially before, when maybe Winslow was the only facility that had a gym to accommodate a lot of fans. They used to have, well, back then they used to rotate, right? The conference championships.
Yeah, I remember. I think I believe Mountain Valley had the biggest gym at the time for a while, and until maybe Tuba City and Winslow came in and built their gyms eventually. But from what I remember, for the longest time, it was this gym that was really a place for a lot of these tournaments.
Yeah, Holbrook has a small gym compared to all the other schools in the north, and maybe in the east now as well. But even I think maybe the Winslow game was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Um, that one got pretty full. I think it sold out because I want to say I saw a sign on the door when I came in, or maybe when I went to concession stand, that it was saying that it was sold out. Um, but again, I think this new media has certainly changed fan attendance. Another one that's overlooked is cost. The cost to go to these games, right? Uh, Gas prices are up. Food prices are up. It just seems, to me, it seems like it's more difficult for the average fan to, take the whole family with him to go to these away games.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's also dedication as well. But there are still a lot of dedicated fans out there who try to make it to every single game, and it's really cool to see when you see them out there.
Yeah, this past weekend, just getting into the game at Mountain Valley yesterday, I was told that it was a $5 readmission fee. Where my daughter played in the junior high game, and it was the same way, a $5 readmission fee. I went out, came back in, me and my daughter, and then my niece. We ended up paying the extra $20, like extra $10, just for us to come in and out. And before I walked into the door for the high school game, it was the same way again. So it was an extra $5 to come back in if you had to. So
Yeah, and Monument Valley also had that bag policy.
yeah.
I was trying to bring my GoPro in and some other materials like my charger and stuff like that, but they told me my bag was too small or too big. I mean, and it was, and if everybody doesn't know, my fiance bought me a purse for my birthday. So I guess my purse wasn't big enough to take in there. So I had to stuff everything in my jacket and go into the game. But I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe they've had some issues in the past with fans bringing things that they're not supposed to bring into the stadium or into the gym. But anyways, one of the other things I noticed too over there at Miami Valley's gym, the sportsmanship was a big thing for them. It seemed like when they warmed up, like every other song, it was their little public announcement. Sportsmanship is also a fan's responsibility or whatever. So maybe, I'm not sure, maybe they've had problems in the past too with fans voicing their opinions in a manner that maybe wasn't seen as acceptable. That's just my guess, but I don't really see that anywhere else out of all the places that we've been to so far. But either way, though, it was still good band attendance, and it was good to see everybody out there. So that brings us to the last game of the evening, Monument Valley versus Holbrook. We didn't have some clips up there that was playing just now. Holbrook, I think they came up there expecting to win, and they had the win in mind. I think their mistake, though, was thinking it was going to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some early struggles at the beginning of the game, prompted, because I always notice when Coach Johnson is, kind of sitting on the bench and watching, I think that's when I get the impression he's doing that because he feels confident that they're going to follow the game plan that they talked about. But when the team starts to deviate from that plan, and that's when you see when Coach Johnson gets up and starts coaching, that's when you know that the team's sort of veered off from the path that they wanted to be on, and all of a sudden, he starts, really trying to get the kids to, or the players to get back on the right path.
Yeah.
And again, that was early. I want to say maybe within the first 3 minutes. But either way, though, Monument Valley compared to last year's championship team or runner-up team, they are certainly in a rebuilding stage as well. And maybe it was just maybe lack of experience or underclassmen, having a bunch of underclassmen. They certainly have a lot more things to work on in the off season. But they still came in and gave a good effort, and it was good to see. It was an aggressive game on Monument Valley's side, a lot of aggressive rebounding, and Monument Valley certainly came to try to win as well. So it was though the score might look like it was a different game, it was still very competitive. What do you think, Mac?
Yeah, it was Holbrook definitely used the inside game to their advantage, man. They used Mahai quite a bit, and him in the inside game was unstoppable for Mono Valley. They hit some pretty good threes early on in the game too. And Jaron, Caleb, some back-to-back threes. I think they had a little bit of three coming back for a while, and that was cool to see. And I believe fast pace too. Holbrook was a lot more aggressive at that. And we kind of struggled coming back down and playing defense. They did good. Holbrook did good.
Yes, it was what was interesting too is Tyler Tabaha had 3 fouls. He committed 3 fouls. I want to say early in the second and in the third. I have here reading my notes. 30.8 seconds left in the game. Tyler Tabaha had 3 fouls. So I believe because of that, he didn't play a whole lot in the third quarter. So what we got to see in the third quarter was what the team would look like if Tyler Tabaha was not able to contribute. They were still able to get it done, but I think there was still I guess it's noticeable when Tyler isn't playing. Some other notable things from the game. Travis Baya, again, rebounding. I really love to see this kid rebound. If one of the things I would say he should work on, because, Jaron and Tyler are going to graduate this coming year, right? At the end of the season or at the end of the school year. So the underclassmen that are going to be moving up, it would be great if they would, work on their offensive game. Travis, for example, he's really important down low. But I think he, needs to focus on trying to have more of an offensive contribution. He shoots. I really like to see the mid-range jumpers that he makes, especially at around the 3-point line, or not 3-point line, the 2-point line, or excuse me, the foul line. Those short jumpers. It'd be great to see, in the off season and even for the rest of the season, just really start working on those jumpers and starting to work on more of an offensive game to transition from being a post player to maybe moving out and being maybe more of in the guard or the forward position.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to seeing him play as he progresses through the final years of his high school career.
Yeah, they had Chase Salabai come back too, and he played against Sholo and against Mono Valley like yesterday, and his presence was shown. He also was a senior too, so he's another big that would be out next year. So yeah, there's gonna be quite a bit on Travis next year.
Yeah, that was another one I was going to mention too. Chase Salabai. I think he's also an important part of the team, especially moving into the postseason. I feel like he's the only one that can really jump on the team, and it's really gives you an advantage when you have that ability, and it's just really cool, to see, especially the seniors come out and really contribute, to this effort, the final part of the season. So the final score for this game, ended up being 39-54. I was one of the last fans to be over there. Just kidding. There was fans that left early, but we stayed the whole entire time there and got to see the whole entire thing because you know I wanted to see how they would finish, and they ended up finishing. Like I said when we started talking about Holbrook, good teams or great teams, they win the games they're supposed to win, and this was certainly one of those games that they were supposed to win, and they went all the way to Montebello, from playing in Sholo to Montebello. They came out there and took care of business. Do you have any final thoughts on this game?
They played well. They just had to get ready for Tuesday's game against Alchese, and I know Alchese played in Winslow this the same night that they played Sholo, and Alchese won by quite a bit actually against Winslow. What most would have thought like it would be a close game maybe, but Alchese took that one to the road and came back out on top by quite a bit. And so it'll be interesting for Holbrook. It's a matchup that I think most of us been wanting to see. And normally in previous seasons, I'll just say it was usually like the first game that Holbrook has in the first game of the season. So this time it's towards the end. They still have 2 games against them. So this is their first matchup, and it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, if we look here on the screen here, we have the standings for the 3A East region for the boys. Altusay, I think, is on top, simply because I think they haven't really played. Well, I think they've all played each other. I know Holbrook hasn't played Altusay yet as well. Let me go to Altusay's schedule here and see if we look at this here. They played Winter Rock, San Carlos Valley, Sanders, Miami. Let's look at just the conference here. Conference for the East. So they did lose to Snowflake. They beat Blue Ridge. They beat Sholo. They did beat Snowflake, Blue Ridge, and Winslow. Okay. So that's interesting. Altusay, having that victory over Snowflake, having that victory over Winslow. I guess you could say, I remember, I think it was the first podcast we talked about how we didn't know a whole lot about Altusay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, given how this has been playing out, I think Altusay is probably a team that we need to get to know a lot better because they are, they have themselves in the mix in the 3A East.
Yeah.
I know we said that Holbrook was the favorite to win, that we thought Holbrook was the favorite to win in the East. It's still up in the air, it looks like. And I think it's, from how it is right now, Holbrook, Winslow, Snowflake, and Altusay they have the East Conference title. They all have it within their grasp, and it's just going to depend on how this final season plays out. If we look here, Holbrook plays Altusay on the 28th, which is this Tuesday, followed by Sholo, and then they play Holbrook again on February 4th, and they finish the season out against Winslow. So from Holbrook's perspective, Holbrook's basically going to have to win the rest of their games. Altusay twice, Snowflake. Altusay, Snowflake, and then Altusay. They basically have to win the next 3 games to give them any type of chance of winning the 3A East Conference.
Yeah.
If we look at Snowflake, we look at their final 3 games. They have Holbrook, or their conference games rather. They have Holbrook on the 31st, followed by Sholo and Blue Ridge. So I think the last 3 conference games that Snowflake has, I think the only test they're really going to have is against Holbrook on the 31st.
Definitely.
So unless they somehow get upset by Sholo or Blue Ridge, Sholo and Blue Ridge, they're not teams that you should sleep on. They can score, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't come prepared to win, they could certainly make it a challenging night for you.
Yeah.
So, but just going off the theoretical here, Snowflake, their only challenging game that they have in their conference coming up is just the Holbrook game on the 31st. So they will certainly need to beat Holbrook to put themselves in the driver's seat to win the East. If we look at Winslow here, their final 3 games, they have Sholo, Blue Ridge, and then Alchese. So in this case, to me, their toughest challenge is probably going to be Alchese again on the 5th of February to finish out the season. So that might be February 5th might be one of those games where we're going to be eagerly, trying to see who's going to win that game. Again, Winslow has Sholo and Blue Ridge, and again, those are 2 teams that I would expect Winslow to beat both of them, but Sholo and Blue Ridge certainly have the capacity to have an upset against Winslow.
Yeah.
And so that kind of sort of wraps up what we were going to say about the 3A East. Let's move over to the rankings here. We can start with the 3A. If it'll load so. 3A rankings, we have, well, those were the positives, but I kind of want to step a little bit into reality here regarding the Open Championship. Valley Christian, Gilbert Christian, Yuma Catholic, Benjamin Franklin, all those teams, you could make the argument that they should go to the 4A. They're just really good this year, especially Valley Christian. Really good team. They got the height, they got the skill. It's just going to be really challenging for any of these schools to go in there and make an impact to try to beat these teams. Because to win a state championship, it requires not only the skill, but it also requires a little bit of luck as well. If you look at Monument Valley's run last year, they had a couple games that they won on last-minute three-pointers. I know one of them was to get them into overtime, and then didn't they make another last-second shot to win that game?
Yeah.
I don't remember which team they played in the I think that might have been the semifinals last year. So Monument Valley certainly had luck on their side in their run last year, but they were obviously stopped short against Valley Christian. If we look at it this year in the Open, Valley Christian, Gilbert Christian, Yuma Catholic, if you go against them in the tournament, you're going to have to hope that a lot of things go your way and a lot of things don't go their way, right? Because I think even on a bad day, I think Valley Christian, a team like Valley Christian is going to be tough to beat.
Yeah.
If we look at the 3A only, so I guess that was the copper here. Again, we can just kind of go through real quick. On the copper side, looks like we do not have anybody from the East in the copper section, right? Nobody from the East, at least in the top 16. Snowflake here at the number 18 spot, and then Altusay 24, 23, 22 in the 22nd spot here. So I guess a lot of the East teams and the North teams are going to be heavily in just the 3A tournament if it continues like this.
Mm-hmm.
Page, number 13 in the Open tournament. I'm just going to make a best guess here. Just based on this, I really think in the 3A state tournament, not the copper, but the 3A state tournament, I think it's going to come down to probably, I guess I don't know much about the South or the Central or anything like that, but what I'm trying to say is I think the North and the East have a good shot at making a run for the 3A state championship.
Yeah.
Because like what we discussed earlier for the girls, the top teams are going to be in that Open tournament, so they're going to be off in their own separate tournament, and it's going to leave the other smaller schools or schools that didn't make the tournament to be in their own, and so that'll be certainly different. One of the cool things I thought that maybe they should bring back is the 3A East Conference tournament.
Yeah.
I remember they used to have those. It'd be cool if they brought that one back. I think the North is the only conference that still does a North region tournament.
Yeah, they're the only ones.
Okay. So, do you have any thoughts before we end it with the rankings here, Mac?
Yeah, something interesting is like teams like Holbrook, they played some of these teams in the open bracket, and they played teams like Page. They beat Page. They beat Morenci. They beat Fort Thomas, and some of these smaller schools like well, they played them before in other tournaments and early on in the season, and it's going to be interesting, man. We can say, hey, this team has more points than them, but come game time, just the way they match up could be it's gonna be a factor for sure.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. The season is slowly coming to an end, and we'll be in postseason fairly shortly. Okay, so among other things, one of the challenges, I guess, of starting this podcast was trying to get everything organized. We started kind of late in the season. It was sort of a last minute thing. Mac and I had talked about doing a podcast for a couple of years now, and finally around about December-ish, I just was like, okay, let's just do it. I just went out and bought the equipment, and we kind of just started the podcast on the fly. If you listen to our first podcast, it was just audio, and it was just audio because I really didn't know how to actually, work the computers and whatnot. But slowly, I through the information on the internet, I was able to go out and put this little production together here. We're still learning. Believe it or not, it's actually a lot harder to speak on a microphone. I thought it was just going to be, like Mac and I have just talking, but there certainly are a little bit of nerves when it comes to doing this.
Yeah, definitely. No, we're just a couple boys, a couple guys from the res and out here trying to make something happen and get some of these boys and some of these ladies some publicity, some show, and to get them out there. And I don't know who's listening, I don't know who's watching us, but if you're out there listening, thank you for tuning in and just listen to some of this. And
Yeah, we are certainly trying to move forward with some other things for this podcast. We want to start getting some guests and hopefully get um, more information out there to the casual fan out there in the 3A North and the 3A East. I did have a conversation with Coach Delmar Johnson from Holbrook prior to their game in Monument Valley, and he had asked me, why did we start this podcast? And part of my answer was what I had said about wanting to do it, but the other part was just I've always wanted to know more about what was going on with each of the teams beyond just the 30 seconds or a minute clip that Sports Zone Radio does during the halftime or after the game. I think the hardcore fans out there, they really want to know more about the coaches, about the players. What are they doing to prepare, or why did they do this or that in the game? And this podcast hopefully will help answer some of those questions when we try to get more guests to come on and speak about this. So we're going to try to get more people coming on. We haven't had one yet. We've been trying to get some of the logistics worked out, but hopefully we will get some on soon, and we will certainly let you know when that happens. Mac, do you have any final thoughts?
yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not sure who our first guest is going to be, but I do have questions. I do want to know their inside of the games and all that. And I spoke to Delmar a few times, and Perkins used to be my coach, and I remember a little bit of backstory from him and all that. But it's gonna be interesting to kind of go back and turn some of the gears again, and just to see their come up and see where they came from.
Yeah, we certainly have some other projects in the works during the off season coming up. The reason why we chose this name, Sports on I40, is we wanted to not just limit ourselves just to basketball. We really wanted to branch out and give the other sports some highlights. Because these young people in the North and in the East, they put a lot of work, not just in basketball, but in football and in baseball and volleyball, and golf. And, us being from Holbrook, we had the opportunity to interact with a lot of the coaches, and, we got to know them, and, to have them come on and talk more about what they're doing to prepare their teams. Even, for example, Holbrook Golf. I'm not sure if people really know that Holbrook actually has a golf course here. It's called the Hidden Cove Golf Course. Maybe the people who are involved with cross country, because I know they have that cross country meet here. And I think they have the like the conference championship or something like that, or conference meet or something at the end of the year for the North, and maybe just the North, right? Or is it the East? Well, anyways, they do meet here to do the one of the big run cross country meets here in Holbrook. So I guess if you've gone to those, you know that Holbrook has a golf course, but Holbrook does have one, and Holbrook has had a vibrant golfing community in the past. I myself am part of the Holbrook Golf Club, so I haven't participated in a while, but I used to be really actively involved in that. So we certainly try to get the community involved with different things, and you'll meet a lot of interesting people here in Holbrook. And I'm excited to hopefully meet, all the other fans out there, and hopefully they have some input. It'd be good to have maybe some fans come in who have been longtime fans, who are maybe known to be followers of their teams, and maybe we can get them on too and get their perspective. Maybe we can. I really like to hear about the past stories of teams and how they did, maybe in the 90s or 2000s. So hopefully we can get people on there who can talk about that. So with that, I hope that everyone out there had a good time listening to this. We are going to try to regularly get these podcasts out on Mondays. We do film them on Saturdays or Sundays, so we're going to try to get them uploaded on Mondays. So if you like this video, please subscribe and please like the video. We're going to try to get as much as we can, as much information we can about all the other teams in the North and East. I know we exclusively so far have been talking mostly about Holbrook, but that's just because we've, starting so late and not having a whole lot of contacts out there right now. That's really the only people we've, been able to get information for. But we do want to branch out. We're Sports On I40 for a reason. We want to cover as much of the teams as possible and give everybody the recognition who deserves to have that. And not, sometimes media like Sports Zone or Northland Basketball, they're not able to go to all the games. So hopefully we can sort of help fill those holes that those other players are not getting when it comes to sports attention. So anyways, we want to thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe, and please get the word out that we have a podcast. So thank you very much, and have a good morning, night, and evening.